How are you guys doing?
Hello?
This is day 2 of the expo. Who's still standing? I've been running around since Monday. I've scanned my badge so many times, I think I passed it off to the bathroom attendant trying to get into the bathroom so far. So I'm not doing well. I'm having so many conversations that I'm rating them by brightness and contrast ratio right now. I don't know how I'm going to land in this, but I'm excited about this. So we've got 3 areas of expertise here, from a vertical expertise. John, how you doing?
Terrific.
Andrew,
Thanks.
product management. My goal today is to get you to spill some roadmap insights.
Try
No,
hard.
no, that's
He's a locked box.
yeah. Who's a dealer out here, and who's a customer? Let's see. We're gonna try and get you guys some good information. And David, technical sales. What I like
That's
really
correct.
talking about with people such as yourself, the pre-sales. I can talk to you and I can get insights not just from your perspective, but 15, 20 different customers. And so it's a great blend of what's going on. So let's dive into some questions. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to use my cheat sheet. But the goal here is this. We want to bring to life everything we've been talking about. And I had a chance to, first of all, what Joel's done and Brad and the marketing team with the 3 C's, I think is wonderful. It's really brought it to a level of understanding. It's taking technology, which is complex, and half our job is trying to make it understandable. So breaking it into terminology that works is fantastic. But John, let me start with you. So you work with a lot of institutions.
I do.
Yeah, what is the initial challenges that might align with either control or with collaboration or with content that you see really challenging some of these institutions these days?
It's a great question. Thank you. I feel strongly that there are several challenges, but I think it starts with control. The idea that across many, many campus spaces and many, many colleges and universities that I've met with, they need control for the faculty and the professors and to make it as simple as possible. They need to be able to teach in different spaces. They cannot just get used to one room and never think that they're gonna be sent to a different room that they have to teach in. So control is one of the biggest aspects. And again, I heard a technical director describe that a little tip that I thought was great. He said, the less experienced your user is, the bigger your touch screen should be. So
You sell a lot of 20-inch touchscreens, don't you, right?
we do, but I will tell you, it's about familiarity. And that's what I mean about not quite knowing or understanding. If the touchscreens are large and they can see a power button that's maybe this big, that's totally different than if it's a 5-inch or 6-inch touchscreen and the power button is very small. There's a lot of things in classrooms that can get up and walk away. We probably can't put reading glasses next to all the touchscreens.
Okay,
So control is a big
That's
part.
perfect. Andrew, I'll tell you what, let's invert the question this time. So you probably get a lot of feedback, a lot of requirements that come in. The way that people are dealing with spaces and their challenges, does it align to how you're talking about these 3 pillars? Does these 3 pillars align with those challenges?
One of the things that I think is just really great about how our team has distilled this down to those very simple concepts is that they are ubiquitous and needed in every space. Crestron has a lot of products. We can do a lot of things, but we really have a couple of core platforms that drive the experience in these rooms, and it's really about driving an experience, right? So whether it's our control platforms, whether it's our Flex UC platforms, our AV over IP platforms, right? These are all foundational technologies at Crestron, our cloud, right? That help deliver those experiences, right? And so it is pretty much every space that we work on in universities, at enterprises. There's always a need for each one of these in just about every single space. As a product manager, when I talk to people, it's all about how do I bring all these things together in a most unified way. One of the things that's for me as a product leader at Crestron is we have huge opportunity to do this in a really tightly integrated way because we have these foundational platforms, right? There's very few companies that have the expertise in all of these areas, right? So the fact that we can make an Air Media was the example that that was used, right, by Joel. It has a control system embedded in it. You might not think about it that way, but that's what it does. It can control your display, it can turn it on and off, it can integrate with an occupancy sensor. It has AV over IP to bring content up there. It can route your professionally installed AV components, like your mic and speakers, back to the user's laptop to host a meeting, right? Yet, in this case, we get to control the whole experience. As a product leader, we get to define how it's going to be deployed, how these things work together, and make it a really simple experience as possible.
All right, David, these are the shoes that have walked a mile with customers. And I want to learn more about this. So let's go ahead and dive into one of the C's. We don't have them up here right now. Let's talk about content, right? So as you might walk into a customer environment and you see a content challenge, for example, and how they're struggling with it, how do you help them distill this to the right solution? You could do something that's AV over IP. You can do something more specific. How do you think about that? Can help these people walk away with some practical guidelines?
Sure. I mean, usually when you run into these challenges, it's really sort of understanding some of the underlying details, right? So it's things like, what kind of control do they have over the back-end deployment, right? Are they doing their own network? You asked specifically about more AV over IP solutions, but are they doing their own network? And if they are, then that's great because it gives them a lot of freedom. They can scale it up to whatever size they need to be. They don't have to have conversations with partners, client partners, in order to be able to say, hey, what sort of VLANs are you going to give me? How are you going to get all this done? Right? It also gives them a lot of control over scalability because they're able to, or rather, we're trying to give them some control over scalability, right? That's one of the things. Do we understand? Do we know how big the system is going to be? Is it going to change over time? Because obviously, AV over IP solutions can do that. But for example, the Air Media that Andrew Ludke was talking about, that's a pretty small system, but it can do a whole lot, and you don't just have to stick with one device, right? You can scale that up to many different things. But it's really about understanding what sort of control they actually have over the design and helping them to think that through.
I'm sure that bubble diagram that John had up earlier is probably key to help break that down, right?
Definitely. We have a bunch of those kinds of things in there, so we can help them understand which way to go and how to build it.
Okay. Well, let's do this. John, I'm going to come back to you. So it's a great example. We can talk about it from the technology point of view, but we want to talk about it from the experience. You had, for example, Duke Yunhan. Is that how you pronounce it?
Kunshan.
Kunshan, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
So share with me the experience they might have had around trying to distribute content in terms of stepping away from the technology, but from the experience side. How can it improve a learning situation like that?
I feel like what we can think about are different possible scenarios that come up in universities. So if you have a guest speaker, if you have the president of the university giving a State of a University address, when you have content distributed over the network, every room and every space becomes an overflow space, becomes an engaging area where people can really see that content or listen to a special speaker or share professors' content and learn from it and get that course material that they need. We even see, maybe in Duke Kunshan, but also in many colleges, universities across the US, remote campuses. So, you think about that, you think about the content distribution and how important it is to get there, and that's where AV over IP and the IP fully, infrastructure really comes into play and is a huge benefit.
Okay, good. Andrew, tell me about your next product coming out. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm dying to talk about it.
I know
I'm a
you
product
can.
manager.
Well,
it's really hard.
Let's phrase the question another way. Okay, so let's look at from something like DM Essentials all the way to DM NVX, right? And let's align that with some industry trends. Where do you think the direction of solutions need to go to meet those industry needs?
That's a great question. I've been in this industry a long time now, right? So I was here when we made that transition from analog video to digital video years ago, right? This is crazy. 2007, almost 20 years ago.
Was that a printed catalog at that point in time?
It was a printed catalog at that time. And, what we were able to do with DM, when we launched DM back in 2007 and 2008, there was this myriad of signal types out in the world, right? You had component video, composite video, SDI, HDMI was new on the scenes, and people were trying to figure out how to deal with digital video, right? And with DM, we were able to sort of take that messiness of all these formats that were out there and normalize them through a single platform to HDMI, send them over infrastructure, and then break them back out, well, often to HDMI, but we could also send out H.264 video or get it back to SDI. You know, when we moved, the second major transition now was from, you know, structured HD-based T type of distribution in our DM frames to now AV over IP. That still was very much focused on HDMI as a signal type. But the world is still messy, and there are emerging other AV over IP standards out there. H.264, SDI is still prevalent, and whether it's even mezzanine formats, full bandwidth NDI, 2110, all of these things, and there's still a need now to normalize and bring these things together. So this is actually, you know, without saying too much, this is our strategy around NVX, right? We've added a USB-C interface, so now it's not just HDMI, it's DisplayPort alt mode, right? And you could see that another common standard, H.264, H.265, bringing that into the fold here on an NVX will give us capabilities to do things like support SRT. We talked about getting any content anywhere. With NVX today, it's really on the LAN, right? We can't go out to the internet with NVX. It's high bandwidth, super low latency. But there's often a need, I want to get it to a web browser, to a personal device, and things like that, or even view it on my touch panel at full frame rate. So adding things like a dual encoded stream with H.264 is just an example of what I'm referring to here. So I think you'll start to see these things in our products, and I would say that's just the beginning.
You're reflecting back on Joel's diagram, right? Whatever source in, common infrastructure, whatever source out, is what you're saying. We won't ask you the product. Okay, never mind.
No, that is exactly the strategy. I just described it. You will see Hey, we're not showing it at the show here. You will see H.264 video encoding on an NVX, right? And that will give you the ability to view that on a touch panel. That'll give you the ability to use SRT to route it over the internet to personal devices, to web browsers. Right. If you think more broadly about that, NDI-HX is foundation based on H.264, H.265, right? So you can see where this would go without spilling too much. That is our strategy. It has been our strategy for a while. Takes time to execute on these things. That's why when you ask me about what we're working on, my brain is often 2 years out into the future, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really hard to come here and not, because that's what excites me, right? And not say too much. But yeah, you should see those. You should start to see those kinds of things from Crestron this year.
Okay.
As I said, we've already done with the USB-C, DP alt,
that's right,
and those types of add-ons.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a break. Andrew and I are good friends. I was teasing him last night. Did anyone go to True Blue last night? The celebration, great party. I kept trying to get him more and more drinks. I was hoping it was going to work, but it didn't. But okay, let's move on. All right, David. Actually, this gentleman over here had a really great question, trying to bring in AI into the conversation, and it's challenging, it's difficult, and I think Joel started to lead into the idea of how the Crestron technology can help in this forward-facing world of AI, right? Why don't you expand upon that right now? So, poor audio. That's probably a big issue in this, but Bridget, why is it an issue with AI?
Well, I think Joel talked about it earlier. You know, if you can't hear it, I mean, in the room, you can always go up and ask them later, right? I can always come up to you after the event and say, hey, what were you trying to talk about there? And I can learn more from you because it's an interactive thing. AI is not going to be able to do that, right? It's got that one moment in time. So, you know, just before we came up, our sound guy reminded us to put the microphones right on our face, right? And that's great. That helps him out a lot. AI is invisible. It's in the background. It can't be in the room to say, hey, this doesn't work, right? It can't be in the room to do that. So we have to get comfortable with this concept. And I think there's this concept in negotiations of anchoring, right? Where you anchor people high in order to get them to come towards you. I think we really do have to think about putting a lot of, being able to have the conversation about doing more technology. right? So it's like I do like hundreds of Automate VX designs over the years, over the past few years, and you know, the number one thing that people get confused by is they go walk into these things and they try and do it with just one microphone, right? But that there's a physical limitation, and we do have to get technical when we're talking about these things with our customers and sort of explaining what's going on and why that doesn't work. So I walk into an Automate design discussion, and they're thinking they can get away with a single microphone, right? Because it's like, well, I've got it, and it's great, and it covers the area, like the room works. So there's that level of the human experience, but then if there's that level of the AI where it's like I have to have greater than 15 degrees of separation between people. And in order to achieve that, how do I do that? I walk into an Automate design with one microphone, and I walk out sometimes with 4. Now, we don't sell microphones, so it's sort of a win on my side because I get to look like a hero because I'm not making any money. I'm just helping them be successful. Right. And that's the thing. So it's more technology that, and as John was sort of alluding to earlier with the touch panel discussion, it's like, I can still do a whole lot of complex things and put a lot of complex things together, but still tie them behind one simple interaction for the user. And that's really what we're trying to get to with AI.
Nice, I love it. Hey, actually, you guys may not have context what I do, but I help create frameworks to make things simple. I'm going to add one thing to help with this. When I talk to AI with customers, enterprises, I think about it right now as evolving in 3 scales. There's what I call applied AI, and this is what you guys do at the heart. And we're going to talk about this in a moment, the video AI, the audio AI. And I think it's essential about getting the best image, capturing the best information. That plays into the next level, which is this generative AI. AI companion, co-pilot, this is what Joel was alluding to. It's that garbage in, garbage out idea, but with these UC platforms pushing so much about transcription, translation, and speaker attribution, it's you speaking, it's this person speaking. Andrew said this, John said that. That bridge between capturing good data in is great. And here's the next one, which I think you guys are well positioned to be, and you're not going to be talking about it now, but the idea of now going to this agentic AI, this idea of these agents acting autonomously for us. Well, one of the key things they have to have is access to those devices, those rooms, those experience. And as a core competency around control, you guys wind up being a very natural bridge to that type of experience. So I can only imagine how this evolves, but I think Crestron is well positioned in all 3 of those experiences. You don't need to have an LLM to be participating in this model. You just have to be a good participant in that technology loop. That's my 2 cents on this. But let's build off of this. So Andrew, the way that Joel and your team presented out this video applied AI, you build this into 3 foundational statements, which are great. I mean, they wind up being table stakes, right? Group framing, speaker tracking, presentation tracking also. But then you've built these other 3 on top of this that really dive into some great use cases. Can you expand upon these 6 foundational elements that help driving your video intelligence platform?
Sure. I think describing those foundational elements, the baseline, that it's almost kind of like table stakes in a room today, and then the things we can build on top of that. I mean, we're so in this show, and especially as the technology and AV professionals, we really want to geek out on the technology, but what this really is about driving experiences, right? Joel I think did a great job talking about the fact that this is about how do we engage, make sure the engagement of people in the room and the people who are on the far end has some equity, right? That they're on the far end, that they have access to those same nonverbal communication cues and all those other things. And so it's a layering of technology that hopefully blends into the background, that you don't focus on the technology, that these things layer together to drive an experience that is very natural, right? When we're sitting up here on the stage, I'm looking at the person who's speaking, and when I want to engage with the audience, I'm looking out at you. I'm moving naturally in my space, and I don't want to be encumbered by worrying about how the technology works with that. If I want to get up and walk around, I want to be able to do that in such a way that doesn't compromise the experience for the other people that I'm engaging with who might not be in the space, right? And there's a word or a phrase I've been thinking about recently. This isn't rehearsed at all, so I may not come across well, but I've been thinking about the idea of what does it mean to be dressed for success? And today, being dressed for success means sort of surrounding yourself with technologies that help you, that sort of enhance who you are and how you're perceived and things like that, right? Dress for Success is about how you're perceived, right? And today, in active meeting spaces and all these other things, if your audio is not clear, if you can't be seen like in a clear way, you're not perceived as smart, engaging, or intelligent. You know, it really comes across as impacting how you're perceived by your interlocutors. And in that case, wrapping technology around it and providing foundational, awesome sounding audio to the far end, making sure that when people see me, it's clear and framed well, and when I can move naturally, they follow me, is really what dressing for success, right? And I think if you think about that for your spaces, how do I dress the room for success to deliver those experiences? I don't know if that resonates as a way to think about it, but it's something that I've been sort of chewing on recently.
It's like an aha moment for those people, right? They get to experience it. The technology fades away.
Yeah.
And then the experience just takes place.
That's exactly the point. I mean, I love thinking about how all these things work, and I get to think about them on a very deep level, right? What are all the things we need to come together to make that happen? But really, in the end, I want it to disappear. Like, and it seems crazy to talk about it that way. Like, you do all of this hard nitty-gritty work that's on so many detailed level when you're building a product, but in the end, you hope that it disappears and that people just have a great experience in the room.
That's perfect. John, you probably have some similar use cases and scenarios, especially in terms of hybrid learning that you can talk about. And I can imagine you lean into this non-technical audience, but one of the things they're really trying to establish is presence, right? You might have people remote learning coming in. You might even have people in the room that you want to make sure can hear that lecture, that presenter up front. Talk to me about that challenge of presence in these hybrid learning situations.
You know, I feel like, excuse me, I know that today's learners feel as if the digital presence can be and should be the same as physical presence. You know, someone said to me yesterday, we have staff members start a Zoom meeting even though the person they're speaking with is 2 doors down on the same floor, right? And so we're getting to the point where the digital interaction is so ubiquitous, you expect it to be like the reaction or the experience you have in everyday life. I really like that Dress for Success resonated with me because, again, it goes just beyond. Well, it was originally how they saw you, and now it's how they see you within the context of technology. So I feel like hybrid learning, high flex learning, even meetings in conference rooms and boardrooms, what's less engaging than when the speaker turns this way and all you're seeing is this? Oh, that's awesome, John. The back of your head looks great. So, you know, what's less engaging when the speaker forgets to involve someone at the far end, at the remote end? And the professor, say in the case of education, is busy and they're thinking about everything else they have to do. They're not thinking about their remote students. So I think bottom line is that we need to make sure that engagement comes very closely at the forefront, if not right at the forefront.
Right. To me, that's a great application, not only the audio, but let's talk about Automate VX, for example. And that camera technology, for example, capturing the best angle in those situations, for example, to help share that right. Because there's so much nuances, especially when you're trying to learn from someone, right?
Yeah, you know, presenter tracking is another great thing we do, and we have a great demo in our booth 2300, if I can play it once more. But it really shows, you know, again, it shows what happens when I'm walking back and forth. It shows what happens when I walk in front of a screen and there's a remote student on the back of the screen. Is the camera going to get fooled and then start focusing on the student, or is it going to stay with me, the instructor, or the speaker if I'm in a boardroom or conference room? So I feel like it's extremely important to have some of these techniques and capabilities. If I walk up to a whiteboard and the shot is a little more zoomed in so they can really see what I'm saying, so they can read my lips, so they understand my gestures, we want to have a little preset zone that might go out a little bit more wide than the normal shot so that they see what's being written on the whiteboard.
That's a perfect example. That's
yeah.
a perfect example of how the technology should just work for you,
Yes.
and you don't have to think about it, right? You're an instructor, you're up there, you're walking back and forth talking, but then you want to go to that whiteboard and diagram something. You don't want that camera to continue to move on a very tight framing of you. It should zoom out to the whole whiteboard, right? And show the whole whiteboard while you're standing in front of it. And then the moment you go back into your natural mode of pacing in front of the classroom, it should move around and follow you. Now that's the way the technology, no one should have to hit a button that says, show me the whiteboard preset.
Right.
Right? It should just do that.
That's
And that's what I mean by, it blending into the background and just serving your needs.
That's a great example. I love it. Hey, by the way, you did say it. There's a great area in your booth. I think you call it the Intelligent Video Lab. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
It is a great spot to go learn. I think it's got like 8 cameras set up in that room. You get to really experience what's going on there. All right, so we kind of hit content. We hit collaboration. Let's talk control. Joel, as great as that bubble chart was, the one below it, it looked like my dinner at Maggiano's last night. It was a spaghetti chart. They had so many lines, and the complexity within this is astounding sometimes. But you, like myself, have this challenge, David, which is take these complex ideas and make them simple. Do you have any insights? Can you help me understand how to make complex simple in these conversations?
Yeah, I can comment on that. I do want to jump back a little bit, just because it was such a great. I love the way you said it, Andrew. Just the idea of dress for success. So a few years back, when I was in my grad school program. I actually had to. It was the early days of Teams and Zoom and all this video collaboration stuff that was going on. And I had to do this survey, or I did this survey for one of my classes, and it got hundreds of responses. And on all of them, the big learning that I took away from it and that I passed on to everybody was having your technology work doesn't really help you. Like, people just expect technology to work. They expect it to do the things that it's supposed to do. But if it's not working right? So in that situation that John just gave, where he's got the back of his head, or you stand up and move and all this, or you're not in the right spot for the camera to get you, so you look like they're seeing half your face, like, that actually really did hurt you. That was the result. Is like people thought less of you. They thought you were less confident, less competent. And so I really love that concept of dress for success, and we're really trying to help you be dressed for success in front of your customers, and help your customers be dressed for success. I just think it's a really important way to describe it and talk about it. So coming back to your question, though,
Okay.
I think an important thing about all that spaghetti is ecosystem. Right? It's all about having things work together. It's making things fit together, go together, have one thing talk to each other naturally. It's like the way that we've done with Air Media recently. We've put that in front of every one of our Flex systems now. That stuff all just works together fluidly, seamlessly. It's all, and at scalability, right? It's like, oh, hey, I've got this Flex system, or I've got a video conference system, but now I've got this input on the table, but now I need one over here. And the idea that, oh, well, now I have to hire a guy, I have to hire a contractor, come out and put all this stuff in there. It's that ecosystem. Everything fits together. That's how you make that spaghetti make sense, right? It's like, if I've got one of our competitors doing this part of the project and another competitor doing this part of the project, you think about support after the fact, you got to make 3 phone calls, and all 3 of them are going to say it's his fault, right? So having everything be in one ecosystem, be in one place, have one hand to shake, as they say, when the project is done, or when you're trying to put it all together, and one call to make when you're trying to do design. I know it's sort of a little bit gauche, but it really does kind of matter that things fit together, and that you are having this seamless experience, not from the design phase when you're putting it all together, when you're building it, and then after the fact when you're supporting it. Being able to do that is key.
I love it. All right, let's do this. We're getting close to the wrap up, but I do want to hit one area. XIO Cloud. Andrew, you're probably best to talk about this here. I don't want to lose sight that it's not just about selling boxes. There's an element that you enable IT managers, pro AV professionals, to actually manage these in a way that's not just reactive, but proactive. Can you just hit some of the highlights of how XIO Cloud helped deliver that proactive management insights?
I mean, sure. It's everything from integration with your ticketing system automatically, right? When there's alerts coming from a device that it's offline, that it opens a ticket for you. It sends an alert. Somebody gets a sign. When resolves itself. It can close tickets, right? There's so many things we can do here, right? With an Exio Cloud, you can define the settings for your device and set standards for how those settings should be deployed across your enterprise to ensure consistency, right? And then when something gets changed, you can get information, notification that happens. There's so many things that can go on there. I actually don't think it's the most interesting part of what I would want to talk about Exio Cloud
then tell me
today.
more. Tell me what's that.
And actually, Exio Cloud is a platform that gives us access to all of our devices, but it's not a device that's really, I think, important to our customers. It's a solution that's important to our customers. And so for a long time, yes, you can monitor devices, you can see their usage, you can know it's online, we can push settings to it. But what's more important, I think, to our end users is that, is the room operational? Is it ready for the customer to do what they need to do? And while, yes, we sell a lot of products, and I'd love you to buy everything from Crestron, we don't make everything. There's many, many companies here that make great products that integrate really, really well with Crestron. It's foundation to who we are. We can also integrate and monitor those third-party products in Exio Cloud. So when I say, is the room operational, it's not just the Crestron products, it's your display, it's your ceiling microphone, it's anything that we have a driver for that or has SNMP support that we can ping, is on a TCP/IP network. We can give you that holistic view of the room. We can actually even define, what does room health mean? What does it mean for that room to be healthy? How can I test that room is healthy at 2 in the morning, so on Monday morning at 8 a.m. when someone walks in, right, that I know that room is working because I ran a self-test in the middle of the night. These are the things that I think matter most to our customers. We're very, as technology people, we build products, but those products ultimately serve a larger purpose, which is to become a solution that should, as we said many times on this, be hidden. Like, the technology should just enable you and it shouldn't be forefronted. And so this is what they care about. They care about, is the room operational for its intended purpose? And that's an aggregation of lots and lots of data from many devices, Crestron as well as many others.
I love it. You were fired up there, man. You had it going.
I mean, I ran our advanced technical support group for many years before I came to product management.
Perfect. Okay.
I know the problems that our customers have. I know the problems our dealers have experienced out in the world. It's very personal to me. I've lived that life, and I think this is an amazing tool that sort of really greases the work that they have to do, makes it really easy.
I love it. I love the passion behind it. All right, so let's bring this home. So we spent time diving into these 3 C's: content, control, collaboration. But the really strong suit about this is that how they're really well integrated. So I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to talk. What is the key takeaway for this audience about this really tight integration between these 3 key essential areas, as you might see it from your perspective? John, would you like to go?
I'm hoping that everyone here, the key takeaway is that we understand the types of spaces you deal with every day as AV professionals, and that we offer a breadth of solutions to make sure that whether it's the user experience, whether it's getting metrics on the back end of whether your rooms are up and running and how often they're used, and being able to put your assets and the money that you have dedicated to technology exactly where it should go, not necessarily equally all the way across, because these spaces don't even get used. So that's what I would want the takeaway to be.
I love it. All right. Andrew?
Making it easy and powerful, right? We have these 3 pillars in our portfolio. As product managers, we work to make sure that they do come together in a very natural and sophisticated way, so that you don't have to do that hard integration, so that you don't have to train anybody, that there's consistency across all those rooms. That's really the ecosystem play that you've been talking about. Yes, you can buy a lot of different components and put them together, and we have those components. We'll also put them together for you. Air Media is an example of that. You'll see more examples of that in the coming months and years, because that's what we do. We think of our DMPS technology, right? We took a whole bunch of Crestron technology and we embedded it into a single solution that sort of does a lot of that hard integration for you. That's, I think, an important part of what we can deliver.
I love it. All right, David, Bring it home.
Yep, and I see us getting waved off, so I'll just say integrated solutions are key. They're going to make everything faster for your install. They're going to make it more efficient for you to deploy, save you time, save you money, and make your customer happier at the end.
I appreciate it. All right, everyone. Hey, help me out here. Let's give these guys a big hand for sharing some insights. For John, Andrew, and David, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate you guys bringing this to life, okay? Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Craig.